The female guest had no idea that in the adjacent cabin, someone was capturing her every move, inch by inch, through a crack in the wall. As she removed her last bit of restraint in her denim shorts, still carrying her body heat, slid to the floor, the captain in the next room also realized his behavior was improper. He quickly looked away, trying his best to restrain himself from thinking wildly, but that crack seemed to have magic, and his gaze drifted back uncontrollably. At that moment, the sight before him caused the blood in his entire body to freeze instantly. The female guest, who had just seemed gentle and soft, suddenly became stiff and eerie in her movements. She ran her fingertips over her neck and, like peeling a shell, slowly tore open her own skin. Immediately after, a burst of blinding white light exploded from beneath that skin. The captain couldn't help but look in again, but unexpectedly, his presence was caught by the female guest. Terrified, the captain retreated repeatedly and fell to the ground. The female guest quickly threw on a bathrobe, ran out of her cabin in a panic, called her companions, and directly blocked the door of the engine room where the captain was located. She ran to the cockpit, wanting to start the boat and escape, but her boat had just malfunctioned. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't get the engine to ignite. Seeing this, the captain, Jack, stepped forward, wanting to explain something, but his actions made the situation even more intense. It wasn't until then that the companions noticed the female guest's skin wasn't properly attached. After smoothing out her skin in front of Jack, he was completely terrified by the scene. He never imagined that this group of people who rented his boat were all monsters disguised in human skin. Jack jumped into the sea to escape without hesitation, but in this vast ocean with no means of transport, where could he run? Besides, those tenants had no intention of hurting him. After forcing himself to calm down, he eventually returned to his boat under the persuasion of the tenants, having no other choice. Worried they might harm him, Jack frantically pledged his loyalty to them while offering to waive their rental fee. Walter, seeing that Jack was scared out of his wits and babbling incessantly, stepped forward and shouted at him, forcing him to sit down before finally telling him the truth. 2 days ago, Jack, who made a living renting out his boat, had a dispute with a dock owner over a mere $5. At that moment, a group of people who looked like wealthy businessmen approached. They wanted to rent Jack's boat to go fishing at sea for 27 days. For the impoverished and penniless Jack, this was undoubtedly heavenly news. So, he accepted the deal without hesitation and headed to an unknown sea area according to the coordinates they provided. How could Jack have known at the time that these people, after diving into the sea in wetsuits, found a place resembling ancient ruins? They used professional equipment to cut out several oval-shaped objects, then brought them to the surface, mysteriously packed them into bags, and carefully moved them onto the boat. Jack, left alone and idle on the boat, kindly wanted to help, but Walter wouldn't even let him touch them. This attempt to cover things up only made Jack's curiosity stronger. So, when they went diving again, Jack took the opportunity to open a package to find out the truth. Just then, Kitty came down. Under Jack's persistent pestering, Kitty helplessly told him that these things were extremely rare giant oysters they were harvesting to sell to an aquarium museum for money. Only then did Jack's doubts vanish. Later, when Jack went to the engine room to check a fault, he accidentally witnessed Kitty's true form, which terrified him into wanting to jump into the sea. But in the vast ocean, where could he go? In desperation, he returned to the boat, calmed down, and listened to their explanation. It turned out they were aliens from the planet Andaria. More than 10,000 years ago, they established a base on Earth, which is what people call the Atlantis civilization. Before the Great Disaster caused Atlantis to sink into the sea, as they were urgently evacuating everyone, they accidentally left behind some ground crew members. Their return to Earth this time was solely to take those crew members back. They had absolutely no intention of harming humans. They also vowed to Jack that they would pay the boat fee in full. Even if Jack didn't want to continue renting the boat to them, they would complete their mission even if they had to rent someone else's boat. Hearing this, the weight in Jack's heart finally lifted. The aliens didn't take the giant oysters, cocoons, too seriously and continued to play in the swimming pool. A day later, their bodies underwent a magical change. 3 elderly people, who were originally near death, not only became rejuvenated and energetic but also surprisingly showed affection to their spouses that night. Realizing the pool was no ordinary place, the 3 seniors began to swim there secretly every day. After several days, one of them discovered during a routine checkup that his cancer had been cured, and the other two were also becoming more vital, even showing signs of reverse aging. Only then did the seniors realize that the water in the pool was like the legendary fountain of youth, capable of curing illnesses and restoring youth. So, they invited another close friend to share the magical effects, but that friend sat on the edge and refused to enter the water. At that moment, Walter and the others arrived at the pool with more giant oysters. The seniors, feeling guilty like startled birds, quickly jumped out of the pool and hid in a nearby wardrobe. Shortly after, Walter and his group brought in the oysters. After placing them in the pool, they actually took off their human skins. As they were about to do something to the oysters, the three seniors witnessed this eerie scene and accidentally made a sound, revealing their presence. Kitty, who had already removed her skin, drifted over like a gust of wind. The moment she opened the wardrobe, the seniors were terrified and rushed out, fleeing back to the nursing home in a panic. After some discussion, they decided to call the police. However, when the police arrived at the pool, they saw neither the aliens nor the oysters, which Walter and his group had already hidden. The seniors, seeing the police return empty-handed from afar, were filled with disappointment. Worse still, they could no longer go to the pool, and their bodies soon returned to their previous states. Seeing his friend's cancer return, the heavy-set senior decided to negotiate with Walter to see if they could continue using the pool. Walter, seeing their pitiful state and knowing no one would believe them anyway, allowed their request on the condition that they must not disturb the giant oysters. Having obtained Walter's permission, the seniors no longer had any worries and even brought their wives into the pool, coexisting peacefully with the aliens. During this time, Jack and the alien Kitty developed feelings for each other. Although Kitty couldn't express her emotions through physical contact like humans, she used her unique way to release her soul from her body, letting Jack feel her emotions. On the other hand, the rejuvenated seniors acted like teenagers, taking their wives everywhere to have fun. One of the seniors, who had just recovered from cancer, couldn't change his philandering nature and ditched the others to secretly find a woman 10 years younger than his wife. His wife, seeing his unchangeable nature, left home and moved in with an old friend. The next day at breakfast, the frustrated senior got into a conflict with another man and swiftly took down those who tried to break up the fight. Even the young security guards at the nursing home were no match for him. The other seniors were completely shocked. Could the pool they mentioned really have such magical effects to make him so strong and agile? It was like seeing a glimmer of hope in the dark. The seniors rushed to the neighboring pool like mad, jumping in greedily as if to absorb endless energy. When the three original seniors came to stop them, the impulsive and ignorant crowd had already moved 2 oysters out of the pool. Walter arrived only to find it was too late. He angrily kicked everyone out and opened the 2 oysters, only to find the aliens inside had withered and were dying. Walter couldn't help but burst into tears. That night, the heavy-set senior came to apologize to Walter in shame. Seeing that it wasn't intentional, Walter didn't make things difficult for them. However, having grown up on a planet where everyone can live forever, this was his first time experiencing such a parting between life and death. What weighed even more on his heart was that the water in the pool had exhausted its energy, and the remaining ground crew no longer had the strength to survive the long interstellar flight back to their home planet. Moreover, they were scheduled to depart the next day and had no time to return them to the seabed. Thus, the remaining crew members were destined to perish one after another. Hearing this, and to make up for their mistake, the senior immediately decided to help Walter move the crew members back to the ocean overnight. With the combined help of the seniors and Jack, Walter successfully returned the remaining crew to the sea, vowing to bring them home on the next trip to Earth. After this incident, Walter was deeply moved by the humans' honest kindness. He decided to offer 30 spots to take the seniors from the nursing home back to his planet, so his compatriots could learn from this human quality. The seniors, who were already in their twilight years, couldn't easily pass up such an opportunity for eternal life. They had few attachments left on Earth and quietly settled their affairs. Since this encounter was too bizarre, their adult children would likely think they were talking nonsense, so they only told their grandson before saying goodbye under the guise of going on a long trip. As they set off on Jack's boat, the grandson, who knew the truth, stood by the window gazing at the starry sky, which aroused his mother's suspicion. It wasn't until then that the daughter got the truth from her son. Her heart tightened. Her parents were probably leaving home forever. She called the police and rushed to the nursing home, only to find many seniors missing. Later, while everyone was searching along the coast, the grandson accidentally spotted the boat about to set sail and jumped onto it without a second thought. Seeing the child on the boat, the police mobilized the Coast Guard to intercept Jack's boat. Fortunately, the young boy couldn't bear to leave his mother and didn't want to implicate his grandparents, so he jumped into the sea. Taking this chance, Jack's boat managed to gain some distance. Then, Walter contacted his spaceship. The entire sea area was instantly covered in thick fog, and the spaceship descended slowly. Just as it was about to lift the boat and everyone into the hold, Walter handed a large bag of cash to Jack as the rental fee. Jack said goodbye to everyone and jumped into the rubber dinghy below. The next second, the spaceship, carrying a boatload of hope, disappeared into the endless night sky.